This forecast is brought to you by me. For information on readings I offer, such as birth chart readings, couples readings, locational readings, and more, you can check out my website at manic.mercurian.net, or you can reach out to me directly as well at manic.mercurian@gmail.com, and all of that information, as usual, is in the description box below. Welcome to your astrological forecast for the week of Monday, November 14th through Sunday, November 20th, 2022. This week, the first thing I want to mention is that it's the first week after, I guess, technically eclipse season has ended. I wouldn't say it has completely ended, though. Yes, we won't have any more eclipses anymore this year. However, we have to finish up the lunar cycle, basically. We've had an eclipse within this lunar cycle, within this month. And so pay special attention to this third quarter moon this week because it will be stronger than a typical third quarter moon. It's also happening in the fiery sign of Leo, and it's clashing with the sun in Scorpio. So these are intense signs anyway. It's an intense dynamic to have anyway, but especially considering we're only 1 week, after the full moon lunar eclipse that happened just before on Tuesday the 8th. This third quarter moon is going to be very karmic and eventful, so just pay attention to that. Other than that, though, we are moving forward. We do have some planetary ingressions this week. Mercury will move into Sagittarius. Venus will move into Sagittarius as well. So there's this huge transition. When we start to transition from Scorpio to Sagittarius, and the sun is going to do this too. This is the last full week of sun in Scorpio. So as these inner planets transition from Scorpio to Sagittarius, there's a huge change in the kind of collective attitude. Both Scorpio and Sagittarius deal with extremes. They're both very emotional, very passionate. Okay, so we're in sort of passionate and sensitive times at this general part of the year here. The main difference, though, I think, is the difference in attitudes with Scorpio and Sagittarius. Scorpio is maybe, the most pessimistic sign that we have. It's very, it's in a survival mentality. It's constantly looking for problematic situations or threats. And when we move into Sagittarius, this is a very, jolly time of year. It's pretty much the month leading up to Christmas, if you want to think about it that way. In Western society, we have a lot of holidays around this time of year. Thanksgiving, and technically Christmas is in Capricorn, but it's just, barely in Capricorn. So the whole, build up before, of the holiday season is pretty much Sagittarius, and that fits very well. Sagittarius is such a happy-go-lucky sign, very jovial. It wants to have a good time, wants to celebrate and have fun. And I think this is sort of unusual. I mean, Sagittarius in the Northern Hemisphere is one of the darkest times of the year along with Capricorn, and so there's this kind of bittersweetness to it. I think, although this may seem odd, it's also kind of fitting for Sagittarius, though. Sagittarius is mutable fire. It is the sign which kind of has this roller coaster mentality, and so I think we can experience this at this part of the year. But depending on the way your astrological makeup looks, this could be good news for you. Things are definitely going to lighten up a little bit and become maybe a little bit less intense. Everything is just so pressurized with Scorpio and the Scorpio-Taurus axis. So things are going to loosen up a little bit as we get those inner planets moving into Sagittarius this week. There's going to be more fire, more room for spontaneity and, freedom of expression, things like that. Okay, and then one other thing I wanted to mention, both Scorpio and Sagittarius deal with themes involving the truth, finding out the truth, discovering the truth or discovering kind of enlightenment in a way from the truth. And in a way, if we look at the signs as kind of yin and yang, inhale, exhale, Scorpio is the breath in, Sagittarius is the breath out immediately following. So in other words, it's almost like Sagittarius is a more external manifestation of what Scorpio represents. So everything that was pressurized and taken in and focused, and everything that was so internal during this previous month or so with Sun and these other planets in Scorpio, all of that is going to be turning to the outside. It's going to be going out. It's going to become external. It's going to be more up in the air, more eventful. So in a way, Sagittarius is almost more intense than Scorpio like that, if you think about it that way. Sagittarius represents a lot of what Scorpio represents, but in a more action-oriented way, if that makes sense. So So I haven't decided what I'm going to title this video yet, but something involving, we're seeing kind of how deep the rabbit hole goes here. We're still discovering a lot of truth with these energies moving into Sagittarius this week. Anyway, enough said. Let's get into the day by day forecast here. So we start out November 14th, Monday, with Sun is, of course, in Scorpio. And I just love just taking a look at this chart. You can see, obviously, the most of the, excuse me, most of the focus is in Scorpio. Still, we're still dealing with the aftershock, so to speak, or the rumblings from that full moon lunar eclipse last week for sure. We still have this huge lineup, Venus, Mercury, Sun, South Node all in Scorpio. North Node and Uranus are in Taurus. They're not exactly, opposing any of these planets. I mean, obviously, North Node is opposing South Node. That's how it always is. But, we're not getting any of the oppositions that we had last week. But these, the planets are still in the same sign. So we're still kind of dealing with the rumblings, the aftershocks, where there's still a little bit of critical energy in the air, or kind of karmic events happening that are aftershocks is the best way I can put it, of last week's drama and energy. So we're still kind of dealing with that. But today the moon has just moved into Leo. You can see moon has moved into Leo just before noon Eastern Standard Time. Looks like more like maybe 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, something like that. So as the moon moves into Leo, it does become more intense for a couple reasons. One is because Leo is a much more, fiery sign than Cancer. But also the moon is in the sign where it will square the sun now. So, in other words, in just a couple of days, we will get that third quarter moon toward the end of Leo. And on Monday, we're already beginning to feel the very kind of, beginnings of that. A different way of putting this is, Sun in Scorpio, it clashes with Moon in Leo. These placements do have a lot in common. Both are very fiery placements. Yes, Scorpio is a water sign, but Scorpio is a fiery sign, though. It's a fiery water sign. It's ruled by Mars, so there's this kind of fiery edge to it, this competitiveness, and this. It's very action oriented, but this clashes with Moon and Leo. Sun in Scorpio wants to be private and secretive, strategic. Moon in Leo wants everything out, in the open, and wants to be very transparent and kind of bold. So these energies clash with one another, and they clash pretty hard too, because they are both fixed. They're both intense. They're just intense in different kind of ways. So there's almost kind of no satisfying both of these energies. They're fundamentally very different. So the way we experience that in transit is there's this kind of tension in the air. There's this, I don't know, there's this energy that can make us feel stressed, restless, anxious, even irritable. But this can be a good thing because, on the more positive side of it, all this energy is doing is motivating us to make change. This is kind of the spiel I give every quarter moon, to be totally honest. But it's definitely relevant every time. You know, I always say, if you're trying to rest and have a slow day with these planets, with the sun and moon starting to square like this, it's probably not going to work out so well unless you're really used to this kind of energy. If you have a lot of squares in your own chart, you're going to feel comfortable with this. This is something that you live and embody every day. But for most of us in general, this may feel a little bit uncomfortable. But again, if we felt comfortable all the time, we would never change anything. We would never improve anything. We would be completely stagnant. So yes, quarter moons like this that are starting to develop on Monday, yes, they can be related to conflict or problematic situations. But as long as we use this kind of discomfort or pain to make change, it can be motivation. So in other words, this is a really, really excellent time to make some change. Really the next few days, as long as moon is in Leo. This is going to, of course, be at its peak when we get that exact third quarter moon aspect. But even with sun in Scorpio, moon in Leo, there's a lot of creative energy in both Scorpio and Leo. It's just they're creative in different ways. So this may be an excellent time to start something new. Third quarter moons are particularly, like a crisis in consciousness. So you may, like the area of change may be somewhat like in your head, so to speak. It may have to do with ideas or philosophies or like a mental approach to something, if that makes sense. Okay, Monday we do have two aspects. One would be Sun trining Neptune. You can see this here. Sun at 22 degrees Scorpio, trining Neptune at 22 degrees Pisces. And I talked about this last week because Venus and Mercury have just stepped through this trine to Neptune. Now the Sun is kind of the last one in this cluster, also trining Neptune here. So this is really beautiful. It's a water trine. Trines are easy, harmonious aspects. Sun in Scorpio is, showing that we're all a little bit sensitive right now. We're focused on finding the truth, and we can be a little bit more emotionally intense than usual. I think that's something we all experienced, by the way, the last couple of weeks. I've noticed like everyone is in their feels lately. We're really feeling this Scorpio eclipse energy. So that's going on, and then now we're channeling in Neptune and Pisces. So it's bringing in this like spiritual energy, this collective consciousness, tuning into like intuition from our higher selves or God or whatever. Um, so this is really beautiful. This is an excellent day for maybe, I don't know, finding some intuition, finding like a greater truth or greater understanding, greater peace with your situation, something like that. There can be intuition in emotion. Like, yes, great emotion can feel like a burden at times, but there's a lot of value there. There's intelligence in it, and there is intuition there. So that, I think, could be a key theme of this aspect as well. And when we combine Neptune trining Sun with the Moon, it's squaring the Sun by sign. I think connecting both of these aspects together means that this is a great time for maybe getting some inspiration, seeing things a new way, being open to change. One other aspect on Monday before we move on: Mercury will sextile Pluto today. So Mercury will be at 26 degrees Scorpio, and it will sextile Pluto at 26 degrees Capricorn. Um, yeah, so Mercury in Scorpio, Pluto and Capricorn again representing like the hierarchies, the structure of our lives, and sometimes the darkness of that structure. Pluto really brings out the darkness and kind of puts it right in your face to deal with in a way that's not always, super glamorous. So now Mercury is making the sextile, connection, channeling in that Pluto energy. And Mercury in Scorpio means that we're all really very intuitive right now, and we're very analytical. We're trying to figure everything out. We're hyper aware. So this aspect means we may be hyper aware of the kind of darkness of our hierarchies or the structure of our lives. This could have to do with your workplace or your family or your government. It could be a lot of different things, but whoever's at the top, whoever's like the authority figure, you may learn more about them. These could be dark, pieces of truth in their very nature, but the fact that this is a sextile means this information is going to come to you in a positive way or an easy way. It's going to be easy to absorb, if that makes sense. So maybe some kind of bittersweet truths about the kind of fundamental structure of your reality. In other words, like you could really learn something interesting today, I think. So definitely kind of an interesting start to the week on Monday for sure. I don't want this to be too long, so let's move on. Tuesday, November 15th, Moon continues through Leo, and we are getting closer to that square aspect. Moon now at 13 degrees Leo, about halfway through the day Eastern Standard Time. So in other words, like the intensity is ramping up. We're feeling this third quarter moon starting to intensify. Is it going to be as big as the full moon lunar eclipse last week? No, of course not. But it's definitely going to be intense. Especially if you have placements toward the end of Leo, or toward the end of any of the fixed signs, Leo, Scorpio, Aquarius, or Taurus, you will feel this personally. For you, this could be more intense than the eclipse last week. But for most of us, this is it's like a 1-2 punch kind of thing. It's like a follow-up of the full moon lunar eclipse. Tuesday, we also have Venus trining Jupiter. And This is really beautiful. Jupiter and Venus are the two main benefics. In other words, like they're the planets that are easiest to work with. They most correspond to abundance and pleasure and desire, and they tend to make things easy. Yes, there can be challenging aspects of Venus and Jupiter, but generally speaking, these are the planets which bring us good fortune. And Venus is in a tough spot. She's still in detriment. That's about to change when Venus enters Sagittarius, but for now, Venus is still in Scorpio. But Jupiter has just retrograded recently back into Pisces, where Jupiter is in domicile. It's still retrograde though. It's actually pretty much stationary. It's about to station direct next week. Um, but Jupiter is in domicile now, so there is like that added strength of abundance. It's in a sort of obscure way still, with Jupiter, since Jupiter's retrograde. That kind of abundance that we're feeling on a societal level is not, we're not really feeling it. It's subtle, it's behind the scenes, it's intuitive. It's not easy to connect with it in a physical kind of way. But this trine to Venus and Scorpio, I think this means there may be some kind of, again, it's some kind of unusual abundance, pleasure, desire, um, pleasure or abundance coming to us in a way that it doesn't usually come to us, or in a strange or obscure kind of way, something like that. Otherwise, the main thing going on Tuesday is, it's definitely like Monday in the sense that there's this climate of still strong emotionality, and then now kind of intensification coming before this third quarter moon. Moving forward to Wednesday, November 16th, we have the first planetary ingression of the week. That would be Venus moving into Sagittarius. So this is really excellent. Venus is not in detriment or exaltation. It's not a super strong sign for Venus to be in Sagittarius, but it's much, much easier than Venus in Scorpio, where it was in detriment. So in other words, like the love and abundance is going to be easier to connect with. It's going to be, a little bit more straightforward, to receive that kind of pleasure and desire, etc. Wednesday, we do also get this third quarter moon aspect, and you can see here, it's just happened just kind of before noon Eastern Standard Time. The moon will be at 24 degrees Leo, and the sun at 24 degrees Scorpio, so they they do square one another. This is a waning square for the moon. So yeah, again, this is peak intensity. You have to make some kind of change. This could be a mental change, a philosophical change, but that inner change radiates outward and affects the physical as well. um, this change could have to do something with pride and creation. I know those are kind of vague terms, but those are kind of what Scorpio and Leo have to do with the most. They both have to do with creation and creativity, but in very different ways. Scorpio is more of like a pressurized emotional creativity evolution. Leo is more kind of just like a childlike energy, just kind of playing and creating. But both have to do with creation. So, maybe there's some kind of crisis involving what's the relationship of you and your pride, you and your work. What do you create on a daily basis? All of that is up for change here. And just on a more general kind of level, there's gonna be a lot of friction, a lot of frenetic energy, some chaos today. It's because everyone's experiencing this in their own way, and our stories bump into one another. Um, we're all experiencing these changes together. We're all experiencing different changes for ourselves, and then collective changes. There's a lot of changes, and with changes come like a general feeling of chaos, restlessness. People may be up, later, more rowdy type of thing. There's just kind of more energy, and that's why I definitely don't want to demonize the quarter moon aspects. Like, yes, they are more challenging, but they're also potentially more fun, depending on your idea of fun. They're more action oriented. Okay, and then two more things for Wednesday. So we do have Mercury trining Jupiter. Mercury's at 28 degrees Scorpio trining Jupiter. It's basically echoing these aspects that Venus is has done first. Um, so really any aspect between Mercury and Jupiter is really great for creating some kind of dialogue, rich conversations, rich debates, or maybe learning something new. Mercury is the planet of our of our intellect, our learning, our day-to-day experience. And Jupiter has to do with like philosophies and connecting to different kind of cultures, expanding our soul, expanding our mind, higher knowledge, things like that. So connecting these two planets becomes very intellectual and very excellent for learning. This could specifically be about learning something having to do with emotion, spirituality, intuition, metaphysics, things of that nature. And lastly, for Wednesday, the moon does enter Virgo very late in the day, so don't sue me if it's like technically Thursday in your time zone, but very late in the day, moon will enter Virgo, so that will create a very different dynamic going into Thursday. Excuse me, Thursday, November 17th, moon moves into Virgo, just before, so we basically have moon in Virgo all day today. That's gonna be a very, very different dynamic, and it's almost kind of interesting when we get an aspect happening so late in the day on Wednesday that the planet involved already moves to a different sign immediately afterward, especially a yin sign like Virgo. It kind of creates this situation where Wednesday is super dramatic, super theatrical, but on Thursday suddenly the energy changes a lot. The energy becomes a lot more kind of smooth, grounded, a little bit slower, more practical, more organized. Moon in Virgo is beginning. Well, it's sextiling the sun at least by sign. So Sun in Scorpio does mesh very well with Moon in Virgo. Both of these energies are very strategic. They want to organize. They want to refine and get rid of the excess. They're both kind of in a survival mentality as well, so that's why I think they have high standards. They're constantly working, preparing, organizing, etc. So that's kind of the energy we have here. Excuse me. Okay, and then we do have Mercury entering Sagittarius today. Mercury's in detriment in Sagittarius, so this is a hard placement. I just talked about this in my hardest Mercury signs video. Maybe I'll link that above. But yeah, it is difficult, but there is a lot of value in this as well. For the Mercury and Sagittarius transit, we are more open to strange or unusual ideas, or ideas which conflict with the mainstream narratives. Or we may kind of get into information, or like occult information or controversial information that's somehow against the status quo. So that could be really excellent. There's a lot of individuality and like rich knowingness with Mercury and Sagittarius, I guess you could say, and a lot of openness as well. Also, the communication will become a little bit more lighthearted with Mercury and Sagittarius now. Mercury and Scorpio is very pessimistic. The last month-ish, it was less than a month, but for the last few weeks with Mercury and Scorpio, we were very strategic. We were kind of on guard. Our senses were heightened because of this. Now with Mercury and Sagittarius, it's almost like we relax a little bit. We can like let everything kind of hang out. We can be more transparent, be more blunt. Sagittarius is known for that kind of bluntness. So that is going to be how the thinking, communication, expression are with Mercury and Sagittarius now. That's the main thing, though. There is a huge change from Wednesday to Thursday. I think Thursday is way more easygoing. We had a really intense start to the week. And now we can kind of relax a little bit. Yes, Scorpio and Virgo, where the sun and moon are, they can be a little, pent up or anxious. So we do have some of that energy motivating us to prepare and organize. But again, it's a sextile, and we've got, overall, it's a much more easygoing dynamic. I think we can like exhale on Thursday and kind of just relax a tiny bit. Okay, moving right along to Friday, November 18th, we do have one main aspect. That would be the sun sextiling Pluto. So remember, we just had Mercury sextiling Pluto just a couple days before. Now the sun is having the same aspect. So this could be kind of an echo, really experiencing some kind of darker understanding of the structure of our reality, learning something about our superiors, or about the hierarchy, something that may be kind of darker in nature, but is valuable to know, I'm sure. Something like that. And we could also just be focused more on shining light into darkness, bringing up insecurities or past memories that maybe we usually like to just ignore and like sweep under the rug. Those may come up to the surface today. This is just a sextile, so it's not like a super overwhelmingly potent aspect, but this may come to you, excuse me, especially if you have planets kind of late in Scorpio or Capricorn, you'll experience this very strongly. That's the main aspect, though. Other than that, Sun is still in Scorpio, Moon is in Virgo, and the Moon will make an exact sextile with the Sun very late on Friday, going into early Saturday morning. So, so this is a pretty harmonious aspect for Friday. I think it's a really great day for again like planning, preparing, organizing, learning. I think both Scorpio and Virgo are fixated on like learning and figuring things out. Creating more understanding or awareness, using that awareness to feel like feel prepared. All of that, there's a lot of harmony, and that's what is being supported right now. And Mercury and Venus in Sagittarius want that learning as well, that expansion too, if that makes sense. Okay, Saturday, November 19th. Moon will make the exact sextile. Depending on your time zone, it may be very, very early, on Saturday. So that really that peak kind of harmony. It's a really beautiful aspect. But then, already kind of in the morning Eastern Standard Time on Saturday, Moon does enter Libra. So that is, of course, a different dynamic. Right now, we really don't have a lot of air planets, just Saturn in Aquarius and Mars in Gemini. So now Moon in Libra adds a little bit of air, a little bit of detachedness, which I do think is nice because, it kind of rounds out this chart a little bit. We've had Sun in Scorpio, and then Mercury and Venus are now in Sagittarius. And so these, this water and fire, these are very kind of emotional, passionate placements. We're discovering truth that may be very personal to us. And yeah, these are kind of intense energies. So with Moon in Libra, this adds in a little bit of detachedness. We don't have to take everything so seriously. We can view everything from a more like intellectual or objective kind of lens. We can maybe live a little bit vicariously, or just, I don't know, observe rather than feeling everything so viscerally. So I do think this is kind of nice. And the Moon is now kind of concluding its very eventful lunar cycle. Moon is, wrapping up now. There's little to no light in the Moon at this point now. So yeah, especially to have this in the sign of Libra, which is kind of an easygoing sign, I would say. I think this does, it's almost like a period of rest, sort of, I would say, which I think is much needed, again, after such an eventful last several weeks. We do have one aspect, though, that will kind of muddy this up a little bit. Mars at 22 degrees Gemini does square Neptune at 22 degrees Pisces. And the Mars-Neptune square is one of my favorite to analyze just because it's, such a mess, honestly. Mars is the planet of volatility, action, change, ambition, testosterone. And it's squaring Neptune, which has to do with spirituality and collective consciousness and, our subjective experience, like metaphysics and things like that. So, that's why I say it's kind of a mess. A square is a contentious aspect. So, and Mars isn't Gemini, so it's, making us maybe, debating a little bit more or more motivated in a kind of intellectual or verbal kind of way. So all of that may become a little bit confused, delusional, paranoid. Or, we may have like trouble with words. This is a very strange aspect, especially because both Mars and Neptune are retrograde right now as well. So there's almost like an inner chaos, an inner, I don't know, having like weird or bad dreams or weird or bad thoughts or, and I hate to use the word bad, but, or good, because I feel like they're too simple for these kind of forecasts. But what I mean by that is like we may have just very strange or unusual thoughts or like troublesome thoughts or ways of speaking that just kind of come out of nowhere. Like there's this kind of mysteriousness and dysfunction to our thoughts, dreams, words, etc. right now. Um, I don't know. The only kind of more positive side of this I could see is that it would kind of mix things up. It would allow us to maybe come across some like new or obscure information, or I don't know, think in a way we typically wouldn't. But yeah, this is a definitely one of the most dysfunctional aspects, I would say, on Saturday. So overall, it's an easygoing, chill Saturday. Honestly, I mean, for the weekend, you could go out, do something. I feel like we've had such an intense last few weeks, and with Moon wrapping up its lunar cycle, I feel like this weekend is more of a chill, stay at home kind of weekend based on the astrology. Of course, that depends on your personal astrology. But overall, to me, this looks like a more just like, let's just chill, stay at home kind of vibe. Yes, we do have Mercury and Venus in Sagittarius, which are promoting us to, have fun, go out. But, just wait a little bit. Sun is going to move into Sagittarius next week. So that's going to be more of a time, especially when we're starting a new lunar cycle. We're going to have a new moon next week. I sound like I'm wrapping up the forecast. I'm not done yet. But my point is this weekend, I would really say just kind of relax. There's going to be better times to like go out and have a lot of fun, even just as soon as next week. So I would say just kind of relax this weekend. Okay, next was Sunday, November 20th. We saw Moon cruising on through Libra, losing light each day, each night, kind of wrapping up the cycle here. Again, like really easygoing vibes. Let's just chill, let's hang out, let's rest a little bit. We do have Sun trining Jupiter, so just like Venus and Mercury trined Jupiter, now Sun is doing the same thing. They are so close together. And yeah, okay, so this is really beautiful, and it's kind of nice. It's almost like Jupiter is greeting these planets right before they leave Scorpio and enter Sagittarius. So what a nice thing for Jupiter to do, to bestow upon us a little bit of abundance. Even if this abundance is coming to us in a really weird way, or an intuitive or non-physical way, since Jupiter is retrograde in Pisces, at least there's some kind of like reassurance from the universe, or spiritual like recognition or peace coming in. This is going to be very like emotional in nature, very intuitive in nature, but there's some kind of like internal peace that you may find, or emotional comfort, if that makes sense. And again, I think like what more beautiful way to kind of wrap up this intensity of Scorpio than with a trine from Jupiter in Pisces, where it's in domicile. Love, abundant. I don't know why I said love. Maybe love, abundance, pleasure. Soul growth, soul expansion. It's like, I don't know. I feel like it's kind of like a cherry on top. It's like a little reward. It's like, you took this really big test. It was really hard. We crammed for finals. We did that. We took the test, which was maybe really stressful, but we got it out there. We did what needed to be done. Now we get this like little reward, this little like cookie or something, on Sunday. And yeah, and this is a great way not only to wrap up this whole eclipse season, but also this week in general, because pretty soon we're going to have Sun move into Sagittarius. Yeah, so that's what I have for you for this week. Next week really is a new week. Not only do we have Sun moving into a new sign, but immediately after that we have a new moon in Sagittarius at 1 degree, really showing that like everything is about beginning Sagittarius. We're not even thinking about Scorpio as much anymore. We will have Moon cruise on through Scorpio before it enters, Sagittarius and has the new moon there. But yeah, we're really starting something new and focusing on, again, that kind of like holiday spirit, that cheerful energy. Yes, we've just discovered maybe some very heavy truths during Scorpio season, but hopefully by now we're at peace with them. There's a huge, very powerful transition that happens when you go from a water sign to a fire sign, because water signs are endings and fire signs are beginnings. So we really, we just went through a major ending and then now a new beginning. And there's something refreshing, there's something revitalizing when we enter a fire sign, I think, generally speaking. So yeah, congratulations, you made it through eclipse season, and now I think we can have some fun with these Sagittarius energies. So that's what I have for you this week. I hope this helps you or gives you some kind of peace or clarity or at least like intellectual entertainment. And I look forward to talking to you next week. Take care.